A surveillance camera rolling the moment a charter bus hits a car that had already been in an accident on I-25. The video shows the bus rolling over to the other side of the highway, glass and debris flying. A passenger then steps up to calm the bus driver down.
Hey, you hit brakes. You did a good job. You did a good job. You did a good job.
When a second collision happens. The video offers clues to what happened seconds before and after the crash.
It's rare that we get to see something that happens in progress.
The left side of the screen shows the driver and her reaction. The right side shows what she is seeing on the road.
You could see her reaction when she recognized the danger.
That danger, a Honda that stopped after hitting a pickup on the freeway. The driver overcorrects, causing the bus to fall and stop on its side. Then, as a passenger reassures the driver,
you can see in the forward camera that the road lights up with headlights on the road, and then another collision occurs.
That second collision from a semi-tractor trailer that hit the overturned bus. Also of interest to investigators, the video shows the driver was going within the speed limit of 75 miles per hour before the initial crash into the Honda Accord.
The NTSB Bus Trustworthiness Issues report of 1999 discusses the availability of seatbelts in the domestic market at the time of the manufacture of the incident motor coach. In this insider-exclusive Justice in America Network TV special, Justice in America Bus Safety Expose, our news team sits down with Jim Sherr, founder of Sherr Legate, to discuss how he successfully represented several of the victims, including one of the death claimants, and settled the case for a confidential amount. Seatbelts are required on new motor coaches and other large buses in the United States, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, since 2019. Jim has earned a reputation as an unyielding trial lawyer who repeatedly represents individuals and families against big companies and the Goliaths of the world, and repeatedly wins. His amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide his clients with the results they need and the results they deserve. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from El Paso, Texas. It is my great pleasure to introduce Jim Sherr to the show. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Good to see you, Steve.
Tell our audience a little bit about what your firm does.
We do wrongful death and serious personal injury cases, and I've been doing it in my 50th year practicing law. I've tried over 300 jury trials in multiple states throughout the nation. That we take care of people who really need help when they need it the most. That's what we do.
Yeah, today we are here talking about a bus case that was manufactured by MCI. It was traveling down the road and the driver lost control of the bus. And as I am speaking, we're going to now show a clip for about 17 seconds of the inside of that bus when it lost control. Let's do that now.
A surveillance camera rolling the moment a charter bus hits a car that had already been in an accident on I-25. The video shows the bus rolling over to the other side of the highway, glass and debris flying. A passenger then steps up to calm the bus driver down.
Hey, you hit brakes. You did a good job.
Now that we've seen this clip, tell us what you saw initially and what was later discovered, the problem with this case.
Multiple parts. The first was the liability of the drivers, the bus company, the driver of the 18-wheeler, the two cars that had the preliminary collision. That was the first part of the case. There was a second part of the case. When you look at the video, you clearly can see there's a problem. No seatbelts.
Now, let me ask you this. I think it's since 2019, all new buses they have to have seatbelts in the bus themselves. I'm talking about commercial bus lines. But since 1999, the Department of Transportation has put out an advisory, if you will, that commercial buses have to have seatbelts too. Is that right?
Seatbelts have been required in passenger vehicles since the 70s, but buses have not. Not in the United States. Now, other first world countries have adopted standards requiring seatbelts in their buses, but not in the United States. There was a huge lobby by the bus companies that were manufactured. The buses here in the United States, not to require the seatbelts in the passenger buses. And that prevented legislation or mandatory requirements for seatbelts. This bus that was involved in this case did not have seatbelts in it.
So what was your approach in representing, there were some deaths, you represented injured people also. What was your approach to successfully handling this case?
Very difficult case. Very difficult because it required historical research, understanding the requirements in the United States and comparison with other first world countries and nations, looking at the difference between passenger buses, school buses in the United States, and then looking at how that happened here in the United States. So the first item is historical, understanding seatbelts, the need for seatbelts, and why buses in the United States did not have seatbelts.
So this bus was manufactured in 1996. At that time, seatbelts were not required to be on commercial buses. But you used this as a tool, if you will, to win the case, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole case was brought here against the manufacturer of the bus. And just because the minimum standards set forth by the government did not require that, did not mean that it was reasonably safe for the manufacturer to exclude a safety device for the protection of its occupants if they knew or should have known of the dangers that they exposed their riders to.
And that was the key to winning the case, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The theory was brought on a design defect as well as a negligence cause of action against the manufacturer of the bus. The second question then arises, okay, if you have seatbelts, if you did not have seatbelts, or if you did have seatbelts, what would the difference be? So it required for us to bring in biomechanical engineers, accident reconstruction experts, and to bring in mechanical engineers to talk about the bus having seatbelts and its history and usage. So I went and researched and who was the best experts available in the nation to do that. And I found excellent experts on the background.
What they use is they use bus crashes, obviously, in real time, that the people had seatbelts and what were the injuries, right? Versus the buses that didn't have the seatbelts and what the injuries were. Is that correct?
Kind of. What the biomechanical engineers would do is take a look at the movement of the human body and how that body moved as the bus went through its gyrations in this incident. The mechanical engineers would look at how the seatbelt would hold them in place. The historical expert would have provided the background on why seatbelts were necessary. So those are the three. Then you bring in the medical side to determine what type of physical injuries the individual had. And, head injuries, for example, is one of the worst things that can happen if you don't have seatbelts. And that was, I did many seatbelt cases early on before they became, or before they were mandatory in the back seat. And so I understand and also rollovers and ejection of people from vehicles with or without seatbelts. So that's all there.
But the defense is always crying, we did everything that was required by us by law.
That is always the defense, that we met the standards. That's what the government required. The government knows what they're doing, and we follow those government requirements.
And jurors don't buy that, do they?
We hope that the jurors will determine what is right. And the answer is correct. Jurors cut through the baloney and decide what's right.
Where was this case tried, by the way?
This was not tried. It was organized, put together, and we originally filed suit. The lawsuit was originally filed in New Mexico. It was the defendant, MCI, said, we're not doing business in New Mexico, you can't sue us there. We then filed a second lawsuit in Chicago, Illinois, to preserve the claims of our clients in the event jurisdiction was found not to apply in the state of New Mexico. That lawsuit was abated or put on hold till the determination in New Mexico on the jurisdiction applied. We then got into researching what MCI did in New Mexico, and they actually manufactured part of buses in New Mexico itself. And I think it was in Roswell, New Mexico, that they had part of their manufacturing done in that part. So we went to the jurisdiction hearing. It was contested hotly. We prevailed. That meant that the case could be prosecuted in the state of New Mexico. That's how the case worked, and there was a lot of delays that prevented the case moving forward quickly. That happens in major litigation.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Delay, delay, delay.
Yes, sir.
I remember asking you a question many years ago. How do you make a living as a plaintiff lawyer in the state of Texas? I realized this was in New Mexico. And you said to me, Steve, the Supreme Court, state Supreme Court, can't hear all the cases, right? You remember that? So we settled.
That's true.
Is El Paso considered a good place to try a case like Dallas or Houston or Austin, Texas? El
Paso is a reasonable community because we have a high number of Hispanic population here, over 85% Hispanic. For Hispanic population, a Hispanic plaintiff does reasonably well in El Paso. The other end is that we're not a rich town. We're not used to seeing big numbers, people making billions of dollars like you see in Houston, Dallas, or Los Angeles. So, you know, they're reasonable in terms of the amount of damages that are assessed here in El Paso.
Anything else you want to add on this case that you found interesting? And let me also ask this question. Today, every commercial bus manufactured and driven in the United States has seatbelts on it, correct?
For passenger buses used in commercial purposes. I do not know whether or not school buses are required to comply with that.
It was interesting because I was doing a little research and I asked that same question to myself, and the lobbyists have convinced the legislatures that because children are small and they're sitting in a seat, it's kind of like an all-enclosed wall and they don't need them.
Baloney. You know, that was the argument even in this case. You know, we have a cushioned front. If you hit the cushioned front, you can't be hurt. You know, there may be a bar underneath the cushion, but we pad it. Well, people got killed. People got permanently and severely injured. That's not true. Safety first.
Well, congratulations on your settlement, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you for the work you do.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.